The year is 1324. A man crosses the Sahara with 60,000 soldiers, 12,000 slaves, and 80 camels, each carrying 300 pounds of pure gold. He gives so much of it away that he collapses the Egyptian economy, and it doesn't recover for a decade. His name is Mansa Musa, and by every serious estimate, he is the wealthiest human being who has ever lived. Not Elon Musk, not Bezos, not the Rockefellers. This man, from the 14th century, from West Africa, and most people have never heard of him. Before we understand Musa, we have to understand what he was sitting on. The Mali Empire at its peak covered nearly 2 million square kilometers and held somewhere between 40 and 50 million people, roughly half the population of the entire African continent at the time. But size isn't what made it rich. What made Mali extraordinary was gold. Historians estimate that at its height, the empire was producing close to half of all the gold in the entire Old World. Europe, the Middle East, North Africa, all of them depended on gold that came, ultimately, from Mali. Mansa Musa controlled every ounce of it. He also controlled the salt trade. Salt in the medieval world was survival. It preserved food, it functioned as currency. Mali sat perfectly between the gold-producing south and the salt-producing north, and Musa taxed every caravan that passed through. This wasn't personal wealth. It was geographic, structural, baked into the land itself. In 1324, Musa decided to make the pilgrimage to Mecca. For a man of his position, this was not a quiet journey. He left with a caravan that contemporary Arab historians described in extraordinary detail. 60,000 men in his retinue, 12,000 personal slaves, each dressed in silk and carrying a golden staff. 80 camels, each loaded with 250 to 300 pounds of gold dust. The total weight of gold he brought has been estimated at 15 to 18 tons. And everywhere he went, he spent. He gave gold to the poor in every city he passed through. He commissioned mosques, he handed gold to strangers on the street. In Cairo, he spent so freely that he flooded the local gold market. Too much gold entered the economy too fast. Prices collapsed. Merchants saw their savings lose their value almost overnight. Historians estimate it took Egypt 10 to 12 years to fully recover. Not from an invasion, not from a war, but from one man's generosity during a stopover. The Hajj changed how the world saw Africa. Before 1324, European maps had blank spaces where West Africa should have been. After Musa's pilgrimage, that changed. The Catalan Atlas of 1375, one of the most important medieval maps ever made, depicts Mansa Musa explicitly, sitting on a throne at the center of West Africa, holding a golden scepter and a massive gold nugget. The caption calls him the richest and most distinguished ruler in all the land. Trade routes shifted. Merchants rerouted caravans to reach Mali's markets. Ambassadors arrived from across the Islamic world. Musa also returned from Mecca with an Andalusian architect named Abu Ishaq al-Sahili, who introduced new construction techniques to West Africa. Musa was not just spending, he was recruiting. He came home with scholars, builders, and administrators he had gathered along the way. Back in Mali, he continued developing Timbuktu into one of the greatest centers of Islamic learning in the world. The university there eventually held between 25,000 and 50,000 students. Hundreds of thousands of manuscripts from that era survive to this day. Modern estimates of Musa's wealth range from 400 billion to figures in the trillions. None of these numbers are meaningful. His wealth wasn't in a bank. It flowed constantly through trade networks he presided over. What we can say is this: at the time he lived, no one on earth commanded more material wealth. No European king, no Middle Eastern sultan, no Chinese emperor. And by the measure of share of global economic output, he outranks every modern billionaire by a margin that isn't close. He died around 1337. His successors were weaker. The empire fragmented. The Songhai eventually absorbed much of Mali's territory. By the time European explorers reached West Africa, Musa was already fading from memory. It has taken modern scholarship, digitized manuscripts, corrected histories to bring him back. Mansa Musa's story is ultimately about geography. He was intelligent, devout, and a genuine builder of civilization. But the foundation was the land. gold beneath his feet, salt trade at his borders, and a position at the center of global commerce at exactly the right moment in history. The greatest fortunes have always been attached to geography first, the person second. Musa sat on top of half the world's gold supply during the era when gold was the basis of all global trade. That is why no one has come close in 700 years.